Hey guys, it's the most electrifying woman in travel blogging, Katie from the K Show blog here, and today I just want to go over some culture shocks I noticed since moving to America. I got my list here, let's get into it. First, I will say there was a couple of others I thought of, but I've already kind of talked about them a lot in other videos, so I left those ones out. But if you're interested, you could just check out my other videos in the USA playlist, and there's more little things in there, but I tried to keep this one fresh. So number one is medical ads on TV. Now, I think like a lot of people I've talked to who have like visited America or moved to America have mentioned this as well, that like the medical ads on TV are so kind of overwhelming. It really treats medicine like a business, which is kind of just very different to like what I was used to. And they're just so intense. Like, it's weird for me just generally being like going to my doctor, and instead of like going to this doctor and saying, I saw this ad on TV, I think I should be taking this medicine, I think I have this disease or whatever, that's like kind of weird to me, because usually it would be like I go to a doctor, I explain what's going on, they come up with some theories, you know, and you work on finding the solution, as opposed to like treating medicine like something else you would buy from an ad on TV, you know, like a TV or a couch or well, whatever else, you know. So that's really unusual, and the way they do it too, listing all the side effects at the end, which you know they just have to do, but it's so crazy because it's like up to and including a violent, painful death, you know, like just really intense. So the medical ads on TV were definitely like shocking at first. Number two, the gaps in between the edges of toilet doors. You know, like everywhere I go in America, the gaps are so large that you can like see into the stall in a public restroom, and you can't like, I mean, you wouldn't be standing there staring in the first place, otherwise you're a creep, but like you can't make out everything, but you can see enough to be like, it's too much. I'm seeing too much of this person's private moment when they're trying to go to the toilet. And then it's uncomfortable when you're that person, you know, and like there's a line of people if it's at a busy place, and you know they can see in too while you're just trying to pee. So the size of the gap is just so much larger than anywhere else I've been to, and it's completely unnecessary. Like it was so shocking to me at first, but it's also like, why? You know, why do we need to see what people are doing in there in the first place? Like, just close that gap, you know? So number three, iced coffee. This was probably one of the biggest shocks, honestly, because what I was used to in Australia, if I went somewhere and ordered an iced coffee, or I bought an iced coffee, and there's probably like two different types I would have gotten. The first one would be buying it, like sitting down at a cafe and ordering an iced coffee. And when you do that, you can expect one shot of coffee in a parfait glass with a scoop of ice cream. You top that baby with milk, then you top it again with whipped cream and chocolate powder. And that's an iced coffee. So that's what I was thinking the first time I got one. The other option that I've had, like usually like on the go iced coffee, if I was like stopping at a convenience store or a service station or something and I wanted just like one on the go, they go great with a meat pie. But would be like the pre-bottled Oak, Icebreak, or Paul's Territory's Own. Those are like the three best ones, I think. And that could be described as sugary milk with a mild coffee taste. So this is the kind of experience I'd had with iced coffee, and so when I went into, I think it was a Starbucks or something for the first time, and I ordered an iced coffee, and it showed up at the end, and they call out my name, and I'm just like, wait, what is that? What is this cup of liquid black death? Chilled liquid black death? It was shocking because I was primed for my sweet, milky, barely coffee iced coffee. Where's the ice cream? You know, like it was very shocking at first. So if you are an Australian coming here, you want to get an iced latte. That's going to be much closer, and then add some, you know, syrup, like an iced vanilla latte, iced caramel latte, or something like that. Because if you say iced coffee, the Americans treat that as a very literal translation of coffee on ice. And it's just black coffee on ice, and you will not get what you think you're going to get. So number four, the doctor's visits. The whole medical industry is like very different and culturally shocking, but the experience at the doctor's office is like why does it always feel like they're trying to upsell me? Like the same way the person at, McDonald's wants to upsell me to a large, for just that little bit extra. Last time I went in to get my birth control, and then they're like, hey, can we offer you a blood test for all these checks? But it feels like much more business-like and much less like doctor-patient relationship-like, if that makes sense. It feels like a business when I go there. So that was like culturally very different, at least to what like I'd experienced with Australian doctors anyway. Number 5, tax not being included when you see the price of something. So this was like so frustrating. It's kind of shocking, but more frustrating than anything, because when you go shopping in Australia and like you see something, this hat, maybe it's listed for $5. When you go up, like you pay $5, like that's it. That's the amount of maths you need to do for like how much money you're spending that day. But in America, it would be listed as like $4.50 or something, and then you pay the tax when everything gets scanned at the checkout. So there's like some maths involved. If you're like, oh, I only have $20 today and I want to go and buy something, you have to like factor in that tax is going to be added on once you scan. So and it can be difficult when you're traveling, when you're trying to make your cash last as long as possible, or whatever. That's what I was doing when I was first traveling in America anyway. But yeah, it's kind of a little bit shocking, but a little bit frustrating too, because it feels like, my brain wasn't built to add numbers all the time, and like now I'm doing it. Number 6, the general sweetness level of food, and all foods. It was just like everything is sweet, and things that like I wouldn't expect to be sweet were like way sweeter than what you'd get anywhere else. And a good example of that is like bread. If you eat bread in America, it's like a sugar loaf. Like you can taste the amount of sweetness in bread, which seems like it should be some very basic ingredients and not that sweet, unless you're getting a very specific type of bread. But yeah, the bread was a big shocking one. And then also cereal. So we have this cereal in Australia called Sultana brand, and it's like kind of like the cardboard cereal. It's pretty bland. It's nothing overly exciting. I think it tastes okay actually, but it's really nothing overly exciting when you compare it to something like Cocoa Pops or Fruit Loops, or those type of ones. So we have this Sultana brand, and they have a version of that in America called Raisin brand, but the packaging looks the same, like the look of the cereal looks the same. You would expect it to taste like cardboard, right? But when you actually eat it, it's like your eyes go black from the sugar. It's so sweet. So just like a general increase in the level of, the level of sweetness in food was like a little bit shocking at first, and not good feeling. Like it was good tasting, but oh man, like your whole digestive system has to get used to the food here. Number 7, the rebellious nature of people. I feel like Americans, just in their spirit and their energy, there's a lot more of a rebellious nature, a lot more of a can't tell me what to do, that kind of vibe. It can be a good and bad thing, but it's definitely very different to the Australian, very laid back, very go with the flow, very like, what works for everyone, just a little more like, a little more obedient, but then also just a little more laid back and like going with the flow. That's a good way to describe it. But the rebellious nature, it's a cool thing. It is a cool thing, but it was kind of shocking at first too, because I was like, oh, why not just do what they say? Like why not just go with it? So it was a little bit something to get used to at first, but I do think it's cool. It has served them well, I guess, when throwing all that tea in the river or whatnot, and then look, they became America. So number 8, sarcasm. This one's also very frustrating, because the Australian sense of humor is like very sarcastic and very witty, and like I feel like you need to be a little quick and like more thinking. And the American sense of humor seems to be a lot more like in your face, up front, like just there. Both are hilarious to me anyway, but the language of sarcasm is something I speak very fluently, and it was very annoying and frustrating at first to have like such basic things explained to me over and over again because that person didn't understand I was being sarcastic, you know, because like I have that way of being very dry and I can deliver the most hilarious sarcastic things but with a dead straight face, you know, so like it's a funny thing. But yeah, then when I came here and people are just explaining like very basic things to me, I'm like, oh, that was a joke. That wasn't like literally the worst day I've ever had. I was just saying like Starbucks was closed, so you know, like you didn't get that I wasn't being serious. Or one time, it especially got worse once I was like starting a blog and talking on the internet because the sarcasm does not translate to people who already don't understand sarcasm. Then you take away the in-person, it's a lot worse. But like one day was someone was explaining a can opener to me, and I was like, yeah, I know can openers exist, but this is a joke, right? Like, how do you not see that this is a joke? So that was kind of a shocking thing, adjusting to the different styles of humor and like the language of humor, the different languages that kind of people speak. Number 9, seafood culture is quite different, but I think this could be different in different parts of America, and obviously I haven't been to every single state, so I'm not speaking of like every single state in America, but at least like a lot of the places I've been, the seafood culture and like the style of seafood is way different to like what I was used to in Australia. So in Australia I could go into like any grocery store or go to a fish market or something and just get a bunch of like, you can get fish obviously that you're going to cook on a grill or in an oven or stuff like that, but you can also, there's like a big emphasis on like it's already cooked and ready to eat kind of seafood, and a culture of like, you know, like you buy all your already cooked prawns and they're cooked and cold already, and then you just take them home and like peel and eat them. And so it's like a big culture of that that's really dominant. Like if you look at the seafood counter of the grocery store, like that kind of stuff is quite dominant. And then the not cooked prawns or shrimp like would be less. And then here it's like really dominant for like do it yourself. Like the culture seems to be more about actually putting in that effort and cooking the seafood as the experience. Another example, like oysters. At like every grocery store you can just get oysters on the half shell. I didn't know that was a different thing until I keep looking for them everywhere, and it's like to get them shucked already and on the half shell, like it's mostly at restaurants, and everywhere else you either shuck them yourself or grill them yourself to pop them open. So it's like, it seems to be more of a process of enjoying seafood is like the process of actually making it and cooking it as well. So that's been different for me. So certainly like very different to what I was used to anyway. Number 10, the recipes for anything when you're looking on Pinterest or, you know, just searching, trying to find something to make, have a borderline offensive amount of cheese, cream cheese, sour cream. That seems to be like every recipe is just take one or a combination of a few of those things and like mix it all together and then add like a mild flavor, and like that's the recipe. If you're a little sensitive to dairy or you're trying to lighten your calories, like it's pretty intense, you know, when everything is just so laden with these things. And why is everything called crack? Like, do people know what that is? That's not a good thing, but like every recipe when I'm searching Pinterest is like crack chicken, crack dip, crack desserts, like everything's crack, and like that's a harmful drug. So I don't know, so the recipes has been a little bit different for me, but I also just find it cool. Everything tastes good. Like, you know, I'm yet to go to a barbecue or like a bring a plate thing and have like anything bad made. Like it tastes amazing, but yeah, it definitely is hard if you're a little dairy sensitive. And I remember the first time even I visited America, and I remember being at like a Denny's or something. I don't know where I was, but I was like, just like at a limit where I was like, I can't eat any more cheese. You know, my stomach's not built for this. And I remember trying to order something. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, could I get this, but with like no cheese? And I remember the waiter looking at me and being like, oh, you mean half cheese? And I was like, no, like no cheese, like just none of it. You know, just don't put it on there. No cheese? Like it was a foreign concept. That was pretty funny, but that was also before dairy-free was like really common and trendy, so it was different times, you know. So that's my culture shocks. What do you think? Do you have any of your own if you are foreign and live in America, or if you are an American and have lived away and then come back, did you have like some reverse culture shocks? I'd be interested to hear all of yours, and if you had some of the same or different ones, that would be fun to chat about. Otherwise, it's all in good humor. I love America. I love America more than a lot of Americans, honestly. It's a great place. I'm very lucky to live here, so don't come for me. And other than that, I'll see you next time. If you want any guides for places to visit or whatever, just check out my website. I'll leave it in the description. Otherwise, yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye! Was that really necessary?